wanna hear a joke? Here goes. My ex-wife still misses me, but her aim is getting better. Her aim is getting better. You see, it's funny because marriage is terrible.
No big introduction needed, especially since this is like the 5th list I've done on a childhood show. Here are the 10 best Gravity Falls episodes.
The Inconveniencing.
Starting off the list is an easy Season 1 episode that introduces Wendy's friends, who have become fan favorites, especially Thompson in this instance. Dipper and Mabel decide to go with them into a supposed haunted convenience store where they goof around and pretty much destroy everything. But Dipper soon sees signs that the place might actually be haunted, so he tries to call Grunkle Stan. However, this doesn't work since he's stuck at home watching whatever this is.
Bidju, I may be a duchess, but I'm also a woman!
Yes! Yes! In your face, Elizabeth! It's just like my life! In a way.
Mabel also goes through a drug trip throughout her entire time there, as she ate some old Smile Dip. While proving he's not a wimp, Dipper accidentally summons the ghosts, and a majority of Wendy's crew gets tortured in some hilarious ways.
No! I'm a hot dog!
Eventually, Dipper sacrifices his dignity by revealing he's only 12 and not a teenager, as the ghosts specifically only hate those who are over 13. And the only way to escape is by dancing in a lamb costume, a twist that works in so many ways. And the funniest part would have to be in the credits with Stan's subplot.
You had your chance at the cotillion, you!
You had your chance at the cotillion, you!
That's what I'm saying! Couldn't find the remote.
Soos and a Real Girl. This is actually a really wholesome episode, focusing on the dim Soos and his quest to find a date, but he instead gets distracted by a Japanese dating game that turns out to be alive. Gotta love the review of 9 out of 10 basement dwellers recommend. The AI is named Giffany and quickly becomes obsessed with Soos to a creepy level.
We can be together forever.
Wow, that's awesome. Sort of a red flag, but mostly awesome. So what do you want to do now?
Anything you want, Soos.
Choo-choo.
In a sweet interaction, he actually finds a girl who likes him for who he is and gets a date, but Giffany gets super pissed but is seemingly unplugged. And since this is a Soos, he takes this girl, Melanie, to a Chuck E. Cheese parody with that one bear thing from Showtime Pizza. Giffany returns and makes all of the robots come to life. This episode literally came out a month after that Freddy game came out, which is really weird. While this happens, Stan tries to steal a robot badger and gets attacked by it, being saved by a creature from hell named Goldie. The conclusion ends well for Soos, saving its friends and burning that disc. Oh, and Stan goes to Vegas with Goldie. Classic.
Money! In the car with honey! Drive away too fast! I got water in my glass! Money! Private planes! You can't stop the party!
Summerween.
Obviously, since this series takes place during the summer of 2012, making a Halloween special would be pretty stupid. Yet Alex and his crew thought outside the box to make it happen, and have it sort of work. This holiday is pretty much a copy of Halloween, with only minor differences. One of those differences happens to be the Summerween trickster, who haunts Dipper due to his grumpiness.
The choice is yours, children. You must trick or treat, or die.
So they begin a quest to give the trickster 500 pieces of candy in exchange for their safety. Of course, this fails, and the monster shows his true form and attacks. That is, until Soos shows up and runs it over. However, this being builds itself back up again and traps them all in a store. He eats Soos, who bursts out from his stomach like from the movie Alien.
But now, I'm going to eat you. I'm gonna eat... What is that?
What's up, bro?
The being is made out of tossed Summerween candy, mainly black licorice. There are a lot of horror themes in this special that you would expect, and the trickster himself is actually really creepy. Well, until the end, where he looks like a fat spider. Oh, and at the same time, Stan tries to scare off the kids and fails every time. but the thing that actually scares them is his shirtless old body, causing them to run in fear. Oh, and Soos remarks at the end, one of the funniest lines in the entire series.
I ate a man alive tonight.
Irrational Treasure. This is just a fun scavenger hunt of a plot where Dipper and Mabel must find out who truly founded the town. His journal leads him to believe that Nathaniel Northwest was a fake, and that certain clues will lead him to find the real founder. But along the way, they're chased by the ignorant Sheriff Blubbs and Deputy Derlin, who were tasked with a complete case cover-up. And it turns out, Mabel's silliness is what solves the clues, which leads them to a trap-ridden cave. Stan, meanwhile, is trapped and must endure torment from townsfolk like Gideon.
I'm just a humble tomato farmer selling his wares. Whoops, I dropped one. Whoops, I dropped another one.
Pioneer Day!
Soon enough, Blubbs catches up with them and reveals the truth of the town. The real founder was a man named Quentin Tremblay, who was the 8th president of the United States, but he was kicked out of office for waging war on pancakes and nominating 6 babies to the Supreme Court. They discover his frozen body encased in peanut brittle, which surprisingly kept him alive. Once broken free, the three come up with a plan to escape the officers. Mabel and Quentin's stupidity is needed, and they realize that he is technically still president.
Quentin, did you ever sign an official resignation?
No, sir! I ate a salamander and jumped out the window!
Then, technically, you're still legally the president of the United States, right? You gotta answer to this guy now. Huh?
Oh, and this is that episode with the "hey, this is worthless" meme, since Quentin gives Dipper a negative $12 bill. He points out that this is less than worthless. Oh, and in sweet revenge, he shows the reports to piss off Pacifica.
Into the bunker.
A lead comes up in the investigation regarding who the author is. A bunker. Dipper, Mabel, Soos, and Wendy team up to find out if the author is still there. But after nearly dying because of the security system, Mabel tries to egg on Dipper to confess his feelings towards Wendy. Instead, the two of them get trapped in a series of caves where they learn of the shapeshifter. He tricks them by pretending to be the author, which doesn't work for long.
We get going. Can I have my journal back?
You're not going anywhere.
Yes, they got Mark Hamill to play him, which is an amazing choice of casting. He's a legit scary threat that could have the potential of getting into the outside world. So to capture the shapeshifter, the group forms a crazy ambush plan that somewhat works. In the process, Dipper accidentally reveals his feelings for Wendy, which gets interrupted. He gets shoved in a tube and frozen solid, but before so, he gives a pretty chilling speech.
You will never find the author. If you keep digging, you'll meet a fate worse than you can imagine. And this will be the last form you ever take!
Good luck sleeping tonight!
This was also the final episode with Dipper's awkward crush on Wendy, which was done in a pretty inspiring way.
Gideon Rises. Throughout the first season, Gideon represented the main villain. Usually this is played for laughs as he is physically unintimidating, but things change in the previous episode where he steals the deed to the Mystery Shack. He uses it as an opportunity to grow his power and search for the other journals, and as a cover-up, he plans on opening Gideon Land. The crew gets kicked out and must sadly live at Soos' grandma's house. So in order to get the deed back, Dipper and Mabel convince the gnomes to attack him. And even funnier is the promise of Gideon being their queen, poking fun at his more feminine features.
We'll do anything! How can we serve you, your majesty? The most beautiful girl we've ever seen! I am not a girl!
Really? But your skin is so soft. Do you moisturize or...
Subdue them!
Once that fails, the twins have no other choice but to leave Gravity Falls. But Gideon realizes Dipper might also have the first journal and not just the third, so he decides to chase after their bus. In a surprisingly badass scene, he takes control of a robot built out of his likeness to hunt them down. The scene is honestly lots of fun and has a lot of payoff, but at this point it seems like the villain has won as he takes Mabel away with him.
No muscles, no brains. What are you gonna do, huh? What are you gonna do?
That grappling hook becomes useful for the first time, as all three surprisingly survive what could have been an atomic explosion. Stan comes out of nowhere and just happens to reveal Gideon as a fraud. He, for some reason, gets arrested for this and gets sent to an adult prison as a child. Oh, and the episode ends with Stan having all three journals, turning the portal on and starting the next season.
After all these years, finally, I have them all.
Northwest Mansion Mystery. Dipper has to help a sworn enemy, Pacifica Northwest, in stopping a ghost that haunts her house. But this spirit comes at a pretty bad time, as the family's putting together a fancy party for a bunch of random millionaires and billionaires. Dipper refuses until being forced to, so that Mabel and her friends can go. The hunt itself seems pretty normal until this room, filled with taxidermy animal heads and a large fire. The ghost makes himself known by possessing these heads, making them vomit blood. Yeah, this is definitely one of the more shocking scenes in the show.
The forest dark shall once more rise.
What do we do? What do we do?
Don't worry, it can't get worse than this.
Luckily, Dipper is able to trap them in a silver mirror, and in the process bonds with Pacifica. He realizes that she might not be so bad after all, but this thought is soon changed when the ghost tells his story. He helped build the mansion as it would be a service to the town, with a party that they would throw every year, but the family pretty much told the common folk that they weren't invited. So he died and comes back to coerce the family to let everyone in. Dipper pretty much realizes that Pacifica lied to him, and accidentally lets the ghost back out. He pretty much turns people into wood, with Dipper in particular having a haunting resemblance.
Alright, Ghost. Prepare to get... No, wait! No, someone help! Someone help!
But Pacifica makes things right and disobeys her father's wishes by letting the town in. Satisfied, the spirit leaves. Oh, and Grinda slaps a prince.
Headhunters. Pretty much, the twins and Soos find a locked room filled with creepy wax figures. They were an attraction at the shack before Stan forgot all about them. Mabel gets the idea to create a new figure, which ends up being of Stan himself, so he decides to reopen the wax museum and all the people actually come. But this is due to free pizza being promised, and that doesn't happen at all. Later that night, the wax stand is decapitated, and now they must find out who did it. They investigate all the suspects from the event, leading them to sad old Toby.
Where were you the night of the break-in?
Finally, we can be alone. Cardboard cutout of female news reporter Chandra Jimenez.
Ew.
This lead is broken, so Stan has a funeral for the decapitated doppelganger. And the twist here is great, as the murderers were the other wax figures, who were cursed. The assortment includes some pretty random characters, being led by Sherlock Holmes, Larry King, Coolio, Queen Elizabeth, Richard Nixon, William Shakespeare, Genghis Khan, Robin Hood, Thomas Edison, Edgar Allan Poe, Groucho Marx, and strangely, Lizzie Borden. You know, the chick who murdered her family with an axe.
What's up with that?
Dipper, watch out!
All right, let's get this taken care of.
So they have an entertaining fight where most of the wax guys are melted, until Sherlock has a duel with Dipper on the roof. After all of this, Stan doesn't question anything and gets happy when they discover the head. In my opinion, this episode is severely underrated and doesn't get the credit it deserves. The premise is fun, and all of the wax people have great personalities that can make fun of their real-life counterparts.
Not what he seems.
Fans of the show always rank this episode in high regards, and for good reason. It's action-packed, suspenseful, and even heartfelt. And because it centers around Stan, humorous too. So the government finally arrests him due to Stan supposedly stealing toxic waste from a restricted facility. Things don't look good, and Dipper and Mabel decide to look into things. They sneak back into the shack and discover some shocking secrets in his office. First of all, he really did steal the waste, making it clear in security footage.
No, Stan, you didn't.
Don't panic. That could be anyone in that suit.
God, hot Belgian waffles! Wait, I'm alone. I can swear for real. Son of a...
Then they find a box containing a bunch of incriminating documents. Stan Pines is definitely not his real name. In fact, he owns multiple fake IDs across multiple states. And then they find the vending machine code. Meanwhile, Stan is able to break out due to the gravity interferences occurring from the machine, making it such an iconic moment.
But you've got a flight to catch.
Oh yeah? So do you.
Huh?
Go get you.
Oh, and then there's Soos. He is called to guard the machine with his life, which conflicts with the twins needing to get through it. Events all lead down to the machine possibly getting shut down, as it could possibly rip the entire planet in half. Stan comes in, they fight, and Mabel ends up not pushing the button. She trusts him, and the portal opens. The biggest reveal of all happens. We learn who the author is. Yep, it's his brother, and then we get left on a cliffhanger.
A Tale of Two Stans. It took several months later for us to get the follow-up episode, a backstory for all the events that unfolded previously. The Pines twins, Stanford and Stanley, grew up being their own best friends. They longed for adventure, but high school split them up. Stanford, the author, was clearly smarter and was destined for greatness. And in anger, Stanley accidentally ruined his ticket into a possible new life. He is kicked out of the family and longs for financial success to rejoin it.
Hi, I'm Steve Pinington. Are you sick of bandages that are hard to remove? Then what you need is the ripoff. The ripoff won't give you rashes. I repeat, it won't give you rashes. It gave you rashes.
But what I really like about this backstory is Gravity Falls' involvement in it. We see how Ford created the shack, the journals, and the portal. But once the latter goes awry, he calls in his deadbeat brother to hide away the last journal. Clearly mad, as he has spent much of his life as a failed scam artist, the twins fight and Ford gets stuck inside the portal. This leads us to modern day, where Grunkle Stan now uses the shack as a tourist trap, but this gathering is soon interrupted by the government agents, which ends by erasing all of their minds.
But I'll need all of your floppy disks and 8 tracks, right?
Everything about this case is contained on this drive.
Well, what are you waiting for? A kiss on the cheek? Get out of here before I have your butts court-martialed!
The Weirdmageddon trilogy.
And finally, we end up with the 3-part series finale, one that took years of setup and story to pay off in an amazing way. Pretty much, the town is doomed as a gateway of weirdness has opened. Bill and his henchmaniacs take over, causing chaos and more to fall upon the citizens of Gravity Falls.
Perhaps I can be one of your, horsemen of the apocalypse?
Dad?
Not now, sweetie. The grown-ups are talking.
Oh, wow, that's a great offer. How about instead I shuffle the functions of every hole in your face?
Part 1 is the setup. We follow Dipper and Wendy trying to reach the bubble Mabel is trapped in, with Soos coming in later.
But they are chased by Gideon, who has broken out of prison. This scene is just pure fun, with the bubbles of pure madness, and a Louis C.K. with an arm on his head. But by the end of it, Gideon finally realizes the error of his ways, and joins the fight against Bill. Part 2 has 3 journeys inside Mabel's bubble, which is literally made out of all of her fantasies. Dipper's distrust of it leads to a court case of fantasy versus reality, and the 2 siblings make up. The bubble bursts, and parts of it might have leaked out.
Are we real? Is this reality? John Paul Sartre postulated that every existing thing is born without reason, prolongs itself out of weakness, and dies by chance. Totally righteous, bro. I know!
In the final part, the remaining residents decide to fight back, hence the subtitle of Take Back the Falls. Since the shack is immune to Bill's magic, they decide to use it against him by making it a giant robot. This seems to work, and the henchmaniacs are easily defeated in one of the show's best moments.
Good pig.
Bill even struggles against it, and is distracted for a while. They go inside his lair and begin to make the Zodiac, made up of certain characters in the show. Yet this plot element, which has been teased for a long time, doesn't end up working. Stan's stupidity subverts expectations, and they fail the mission. so the only other way they can defeat him is through the mind, which is only possible with Stan. He makes up for all of his mistakes with this one choice, and kills Bill.
Hey, look at me! Turn around and look at me, you one-eyed demon! You're a real wise guy, but you made one fatal mistake. You messed with my family.
You're making a mistake, Stanley!
The final part of the finale is a catch-up for him, and final goodbyes. It sucks that such a good show like this ended, but the creators did it in an amazing way. And to be honest, they did it in an even better way than Mystery Incorporated. That show overall is better than Gravity Falls, but the latter has a better conclusion. It even rivals it in some other ways, and both of these shows will be remembered for years to come.